Good morning, everyone. How's it going today? So today we're going to be taking a look at Kimi K2.6 right here, which is the new foundation model by Moonshot AI, which is a Chinese company that is putting out some amazing models lately. So this one right here is a foundation model, just like GPT 5.4, just like Opus 4.6, which are respectively the models behind ChatGPT and Claude. But this one right here comes to challenge the throne of those two with better benchmarks than both of those in several areas. So it's going to be great. What we're going to be doing today is, first of all, I'm going to explain to you what Kimi K2.6 actually is. Second, we're going to take a very quick overview of the benchmarks. I'm going to select a few of them and explain them to you so that you can see actually how Kimi is compared to these other models. And then we're going to actually test it with OpenCode. So we're going to have Kimi run on our coding assistant. I'm going to show you how to set that up with Hugging Face Inference Providers so that you can just spend a few cents per day in your tasks. And then we're going to actually have it redesign my entire website. So right here, as you can see, here is my website. And we're going to have Kimi create a new design from scratch for my blog and see how well it does. Okay. So without any further ado, let's actually get right into it. All right, so what is Kimi K2.6? Now, Kimi K2.6 is the equivalent of GPT 5.4 or like Opus 4.6. This is the model or the brain behind your agents such as Claude, ChatGPT, etc. So for example, when ChatGPT releases a new GPT-5 or a new GPT-6 or whatever, something like that, this is similar, but on the Kimi side. And Kimi is the family of models developed by the Moonshot AI company. And it seems to be faring very well in the benchmarks. I'm going to be showing you how to use it in just a moment. But just to show you really quickly, if you just go to kimi.com, you'll be greeted with basically just a ChatGPT-like interface where you can just ask it anything and it will give you an answer just like ChatGPT would. So I would encourage you to start trying it out. It's just an alternative to ChatGPT and Claude. And the pricing is also quite competitive. Let me actually see if I can show it to you right here. So if you go right here to pricing, the premium version is, I think, $19 a month. So there you go. It is pretty smart. I'm probably going to be making more videos about these open models like Minimax and Kimi. But yeah, very competitive, and it includes Kimi code, which I'm going to show you how to use in a moment to actually create your own websites. But before that, let me show you how this model compares to the state-of-the-art models that are out there. All right, so very quickly, I want to explain to you some of the benchmarks, which is a way to compare how good this model is to other models that are about as powerful as this one. So essentially, what a benchmark is we have the model and we have it complete a set of tasks, and we have multiple models complete the same set of tasks, and we then measure how many of those tasks the models completed successfully. And one of these benchmarks is the Humanities Last Exam, which is a generalist benchmark. And this one right here is a very funny name for a benchmark. I hope it doesn't mean that it is the last exam that humanity is going to be able to create. But it basically is an exam or a benchmark in which the model has to solve a bunch of different questions. And all of these questions were created by the absolute experts in their fields. So for example, we have linguistic questions, we have chemistry questions, we have physics, trivia questions, we have ecology, classics, etc. And these are like very, very difficult questions that only experts in their field are going to be able to solve. And of course, this is a very interesting benchmark because models up until recently had a terrible score on this, like 20 points out of 100. And even today, state-of-the-art models such as Kimi, GPT 5.4, Claude Opus 4.6 have about 50 out of 100 scores. So that is not great scores for one of state-of-the-art benchmarks. So the fact that Kimi right here is scoring 54 and thus beating both GPT 5.4 and Claude Opus 4.6 is huge to me. So these are currently the best generalist models, and Kimi is beating them in this Humanities Last Exam benchmark. So that is for general general purpose agents. For coding, this model is also huge. It's crazy. So we have three benchmarks right here. We have Terminal Bench 2.0 and SweBench Pro, which are two very similar benchmarks in the sense that they have a set of different coding problems, and the model has to figure out how to solve those coding problems. And these coding problems are usually quite complicated. They involve reasoning across multiple sets of files and multiple different problems, and edit multiple files in order to solve a bug or to implement a feature. So these are pretty difficult tests. And yeah, we have Kimi that is scoring above GPT 5.4, which is the model that powers Codex, and above Claude Opus 4.6, which is the best model available on Claude Code, and a little bit below Gemini 3.1 Pro. So to me, this is crazy. Same thing for SweBench Pro. It also, and in this one, it actually beats every other model. So that is crazy. So these two benchmarks are very similar. And Sui Multilingual is basically the same thing as SweBench Pro. So a set of coding problems, but Sui Multilingual is one that involves multiple programming languages, whereas SweBench Pro only involves Python. And as you can see, it is also up there with the best models around. So to me, that is crazy. So huge results and great performance in all of the benchmarks that we have right here. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you how to run this model in a coding assistant so that you can use it to build your own projects, such as AI applications, regular software applications, websites, web apps, etc. And so the first thing that you can do, of course, is you can go to Kimi Code and just click right here on Kimi Code, and just install it using this command in your terminal. Connected to your Kimi account, you will have to get one of these monthly subscriptions in order to be able to use it, and just start testing it out and see how it works. I mean, I actually do think that it is pretty good value for money at $20 per month. However, if you do not want to use it that much to make the $20 worth it, or you just want to test it at first, I would recommend that you actually run it directly from Hugging Face's Inference Providers. Now, what does that mean? So Hugging Face, as you know, or probably know already, is this community where all the great labs publish their open source models so that everybody can use them and see how they build them. And right here, what we're going to do is we're going to go, first we're going to create our account, and then right here, once your account is created, we're going to go right here and go to search for Kimi K2.6. And here it is. Here's the model. It is open source, and as you can see, it is available right here for you to download. Of course, you're probably not going to download this to your own machine because it's huge at 1.1 trillion parameters. But what we can do is we can run it directly from our inference providers from here. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this identifier, and we're going to go to to OpenCode. In case you're not familiar with OpenCode, OpenCode is this alternative to Claude Code or to Codex, but it allows you to connect to any open model or basically any model that you want directly. So once you go right here to OpenCode, you install it, running this in your terminal, and then you will have access to it just by going to your terminal and doing OpenCode like that. And then you are inside OpenCode, okay? And as you can see right here, I am running Kimi K2.6 with Hugging Face. And in order to be able to run Kimi K2.6 from Hugging Face directly right here, you're going to do / provider, connect provider like that. And you're going to search for Hugging Face like that. Going to click, and then you're going to paste your API key. In order to paste your API key, you're going to go back right here to Hugging Face. Once you have created your account, you go right here, you go to access tokens, and here we are. And then you just create a new token. You give it access to make calls from inference providers. You can name it whatever you want. And then you just click on create token, you copy this, and you paste it right here, okay? In my case, I have already done it, so I'm not going to do it again. And then once that is done, you're going to go look for models with /models, and you go all the way right here to Hugging Face, and you will have all these open models available for you to use. In my case, I am using Kimi K2.6, as you can see right here. I'm going to unfavorite K2.5 because I already have K2.6. And now you're already using Kimi K2.6, and you can actually start working with it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to redesign my website. So let's see how it does that. All right, so now that we have set up OpenCode and we have it running with Kimi, what we're going to do is we're going to have to try a very quick redesign of one of my websites. So this is my blog, actually. So I'm just going to go right here to my browser. I'm going to show you what it looks like. So basically, you're right here. Go to alejandroao.com, and you have my blog with a bunch of tutorials about a bunch of different things. And it looks okay so far. I'm using Hugo with Blowfish, but I want to create my own theme. So I'm going to have Kimi try to redesign the whole theme and hopefully try to keep everything working correctly, such as my different sites, my resume, and the whole thing. And it should continue working just like it works right now, but ideally with a better design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right here to my command line, and I'm going to switch to the directory where my website is. So in this case, my directory is right here. So to switch, I just do cd, change directory to, and just drag and drop wherever I want to go. And right here, I'm going to open OpenCode. And as you remember, we have set up Kimi. Let me just, I think I switched it in the meantime, so I'm going to go back to Kimi. And I'm going to send it a prompt asking it to redesign my site. Okay, so let's see. As you can see, I sent this prompt saying redesign this Hugo website by creating a new theme that is minimalist and which includes the same content and pages as the current one, but with a more modern design, yet minimalist. Use sans serif fonts, clear background with dark text, and keep the functionalities such as buy me a coffee, Google Analytics, etc. Let's see how creative it is. I did ask for something minimalist, so I'm not expecting something worthy of some design awards, but let's see what it gives us. And just while it's working, let me just give you a quick tour of what's going on right here. Here we have the context of the model. So these are the tokens that have currently been spent, and that is 10% of its context window. And here's the money that we have spent, because remember that since we're using Hugging Face, we're paying per request. And of course, we're doing a lot of requests. So right now we have spent 7 cents. And I'm going to tell you by the end how much we will have spent by the end of the whole thing. And right here you have the to-do list of the agent that it created by itself just by figuring it out and creating a plan by itself based on the prompt that I gave it right here. Okay, so I'll just let it run, and I will let you know as soon as it is finished. And there we go. The whole thing finished. As you can see, it's a pretty long run right here. And I did ask it to be a bit creative and to try to use some of the latest trends in design. So here is the final summary of what it did. It lists the whole thing. And as you can see, we spent $1.50 in the whole thing. It used 50% of its context window, and in total around 130,000 tokens. So in order to run this, I'm just going to go right here and do Hugo server. And this is running on port 1313. So what we're going to do is we're going to go right here. I'm going to go to localhost 1313. And there we go. So here I am. And let's see. So it looks quite okay. So these are my recent posts. Here are my social icons. It did preserve my buy me a coffee. So that is great. Then we have here the blog posts, which looks great. We have the tutorials, which also looks pretty good. Let's take a look at it. So life science research with AI agents, looking great. Okay, I really like this table of content that moves as I scroll, and how does it work when I click. It looks good. I really like this design. Okay, so in about, here is me, my resume. Okay, things seem to be working pretty well. Here's my homepage. Dark mode, light mode, and my links still work correctly. So Perfect. I would say this is a very successful redesign. Of course, if you want it to be more creative, you just have to ask it. But I would say that this is a great, great result. So there you go. Just as I promised, let's take a very quick look at the pricing. So for this entire operation, it costed us about $1.50, and we used about 50% of the context window of this model, which is pretty good in my opinion, especially if you're not using the model like 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. If you're just using it on for some specific tasks, this can be a very, very good alternative. So there are two main ways to use this model. The first one is, of course, to use the main token plan or their main subscription right here. So you just have to pay like $20 a month and you have this coding AI system pretty much indefinitely. Or if you want to just test it out first, or you want to use multiple models, especially if you do not want to marry to Kimi, and you want to also use Minimax, you want to use GLM, you want to use DeepSeek, you can instead go to Hugging Face, as I showed you before, and to see the pricing is actually very straightforward. So you're going to go to Kimi K2.6, which is the model that we're using, and we're going to go right here to compare providers. In this case, it is only available for now with Novita. And as you can see, it is 95 cents per million tokens on input and $4 per million tokens on output. And here you can actually compare it to other state-of-the-art models. So here you have, for example, that Minimax Sim 2.7 is at 30 cents per million tokens on input and $1.2 per million tokens on output. It's also very affordable. But just keep in mind that this right here is to be contrasted to, for example, the models from OpenAI. So OpenAI models, and if we go right here, you can see that, for example, the latest model, which is GPT 5.4, is at $2.5 per input and $15 per output on their API. So if you compare it to one of the most expensive models that we have right here on Hugging Face Inference Providers, which is this model, Kimi, you can see that there is not even a question right here. And of course, if you don't want to use Kimi and you want to use Minimax, you can just switch right here to Minimax. If you want to use GLM 5.1, you can also use it right here, which is a bit more expensive though. But there you go. Just here is the pricing. I mean, my recommendation would be that if you're already used to Claude Code or to Codex, you continue using them, you are more than certainly going to hit the rate limits of those. So once you hit the rate limits, turn to OpenCode and start testing open models if you do not want to do the switch called Turkey, and start testing open models and see how they are and start tracking your expenses. And in the end, I think that you will figure out that the open models actually are very, very good alternative. I personally have been coding with open models for a while, 100%. So I am very, very pleased with my results so far. So there you go. That is the overview of Kimi K2.6, how to run it with your coding assistant. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions about how I did any of this. I'll make a video about it if you have any. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.